Take steps, not swings. I had never heard this before until I heard it in church a few weeks ago. Pastor Stephen Furtick did a good job of visualizing this in his sermon to the extent that it had me record this episode actually. The intention is to find balance between happiness and heaviness in everyday life. He explains that being happy is to keep me going in life, to stay motivated and encouraged to live another day. And to be heavy or feel heavy is to keep me grounded and humble. Happiness and heaviness goes hand in hand, and we have to navigate that whether we want to or not. Life isn't all good or all bad. It's balanced. You might find yourself suffering in one area of your life, and yet you have something to be happy about and grateful for in another area. Let me dive a little deeper into this. A powerful and useful art to master is when you learn to take steps, not swings. You want to know why people constantly fail at accomplishing their goals? It's because they make what I now like to refer to as swing goals. We can all recall playing on the swing as a child. A swing has two far sides to it on a completely opposite sides. And people set goals that are so far from their current reality that they are bound to swing back to their old ways within a short time period. Did you know that 80% of people who get a new gym membership in January have stopped going to the gym by March? This is a perfect example of a swing goal. When you set a goal that is so far away from your current reality, you'll swing right back to where you were. George T. Doran emphasized the effectiveness of reaching goals through his SMART goal framework, which transforms vague intentions into clear, actionable steps that increase accountability and actually reaches success. It is important to constantly teach yourself that you're capable of doing far more than you are giving yourself credit for. This will motivate you, and it will want you to accomplish even more. Can you recall that awful feeling of being a failure because you keep trying, but you don't get to where you want? Somehow you always end up stopping. It's not because you're not capable. It's because you're prioritizing your goals wrong. When you set a swing goal, you teach yourself that you can't do it, and you get discouraged and begin to doubt yourself. When in reality, you are very capable of accomplishing your goals. They're just not structured in a way that makes them accomplishable, if that's a word. You can accomplish everything you set your mind to with patience, structure, and discipline. Emphasize 3 lines under discipline. Growing up in Norway, fitness and health has always been kind of front and center in my community. And although that's a fantastic focus to have, it's incredibly discouraging, and it makes you feel as though something's wrong with you when you constantly fail at making a workout routine. This was my reality for years. I hated going to the gym. And to be quite frank with you, I still don't particularly like going, but it's the part of the discipline. Sometimes you do the things that you don't feel like doing because it's going to get you to where you want to be. Growing up, being in school helped me be accountable because inevitably we had to go to gym classes, and it was also a part of I was also part of the local soccer team and hip hop dance team. So these kind of organized sports or activities allow me to stay accountable. But then came adulthood, and all of a sudden I have to be my own motivator and driver because there's no longer a system set in place for me to do it anymore. How many times have you told yourself you'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and you don't feel like doing it? If you want to accomplish any goal in life, you have to build discipline. And discipline is doing the thing that you promise yourself to do when you don't feel like doing it. Newsflash, no matter what you do in life, you're not always going to feel like doing it when the time comes. And motivation is fleeting. Motivation comes when you're too tired of your own BS that you make a move. But we're quick to fall back into old habits when we're not intentional about why we want to accomplish the goals that we are trying to accomplish. I believe that people who love and respect themselves are a lot better at accomplishing their goals because they believe in themselves, and more importantly, they want to take care of their precious selves because they honor the individual that they are. That's the narrative that I have for myself when I don't feel like going to the gym in this example. Because I see myself in a mirror and I am reminded of how much I love that person in the mirror. And I want to take care of that girl. The aspects of setting smaller goals that are actually achievable and long-lasting in terms of forming a habit kind of catapulted during the pandemic, because that's when I had a longer fitness break and I gained a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. I didn't really feel good about myself and I wasn't comfortable in my body, but I didn't really want to go to the gym either, so it took me a while to get back into that. However, my little journey started when James introduced me to intermittent fasting in December 2020. And since then, I've consistently been doing that and I feel absolutely fantastic in my body. By controlling my food intake first and by getting to my comfort weight, it was easier to implement gym workouts as a part of my routine. Long story short, I did intermittent fasting for 2 years and then I set a goal of working out 3 hours a week. First step was fasting, and that alone being the goal. Second step was implementing workouts. 2 years later, I might add. Not saying that that's what everyone should do, but that's how it worked out for me. One had to become routine before the other could be a realistic priority. By doing it all at once, I was more likely to fail in both. Instead, I had a longer-term goal and I was successful at both. Been wanting to go to the gym for your health boost, physical appearance, and mental resilience? Awesome. Me too. Now make it a new habit. First, tell yourself that this is your only priority to accomplish this goal. Make the goal small enough for you to reach the sense of accomplishment. I did 3 hours per week, which was essentially 3 days of a push and pull and a leg workout. I knew I had time and was mentally strong enough to set aside 3 hours of the 168 hours a week to work out. Atomic Habit is a best-selling book that was written by James Clear, and he communicates in his book that one way to make habits more obvious is by adjusting your environment. For instance, don't leave snack around the house when you know you're going to want to eat it. Make it easier by starting small, such as committing to just putting on workout clothes rather than a full workout. He also emphasizes the importance of tying habits to your identity through affirmations. This you can do by focusing on what you're saying. For instance, instead of saying, I want to lose weight, think, I am a healthy person. This way you're tying it to who you are as opposed to who you're trying to be. And let that guide your choices. I don't, but you know what version of this is for you, what goals you have yet to dive into, what ideas you've had in your head and you have about why you cannot do it. Start by taking steps, not swings. Prioritize one goal and make it small enough to reach a sense of accomplishment that provides the idea that you indeed can. Remember what I said in an earlier episode. Chris Williamson said confidence is having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. And when you start showing yourself that you are that person who accomplishes things, you will start going places. Moreover, do the things you say that you're going to do, because prove trust to yourself first and foremost. And when you keep denying yourself faithfulness to yourself, you're also teaching yourself that you're unreliable. Building discipline, trust, and self-love is key to accomplishing any goal. Take steps, not swings, and you'll start to notice that you're hitting that finish line and it becomes more fun. And you'll continue to make new goals for yourself because you've already proven to yourself that you can and you will accomplish. This is going to sound so silly, but have you ever been into like a game? Any game really, but one of those who has like levels. My example, Candy Crush. And you know what? It taught me something very significant. Sometimes I'd play and I'd plow through a bunch of levels in a row. Sometimes I'd be somewhat stuck on a level, and sometimes I'd be using some of these little tools or these hammers that could help me complete a level. And there were other times where I'd be so stuck for months that I would simply have to leave it for a really long time in order to pick it up later. My point is, no matter what, I would always complete a level. I'd be stuck and I would be struggling sometimes. I need helping tools sometimes. It would take me longer than I wanted it to sometimes, but I would always make it. And as long as I never gave up, this was always going to be true. Do you have a game like this in your life that, if you think about it, it has subconsciously taught you something similar? Use these games as reminders that as long as you don't give up, as long as you stay resilient, as long as you allow yourself to use these helping tools from time to another, you will make it. It's a matter of time and discipline. How does any of these things tie into attachment theory and becoming secure, you might wonder? Well, let me tell you. I know that many of you are perfectly fine going cold turkey and cut all contact immediately, delete the photos, remove the visual reminders of the relationship from your room, and move on fast. I salute you. But if you're an anxious person like I have been for the majority of my life, it is also important to think steps, not swings. I find the immediate contact cut to be paralyzing. I find myself completely isolating besides myself in tears and agony. I have given myself so much shit for going back to my exes in the past, but realizing now that I just needed to take steps, not swings. What was typically true every time I went back to an ex was that God would show me why it wouldn't work out. And although the process was slow, I did slowly detach. I also got a lot of good memories out of it, and although it was followed by a lot of pain and grief, I wouldn't have it any other way. Overall, I'm better for it and I'm grateful for it. I cannot undo what I've done, so I might as well be kind to myself and speak a narrative that's uplifting, such as I am constantly learning from my experiences, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in my journey and in alignment with God's plan for my life. By taking steps and not swings, I was able to work and function in my everyday life. And it also made me really creative because I needed to distract myself from everything that I was going through. Being able to navigate the feelings that I was feeling that was so conflicting, because on one hand, you want everything about this relationship to work, yet your gut feeling is constantly telling you that it won't. And I used my creative side to get an outlet, which is how writing came into play, journaling came into play, creating this podcast came into play. Everything that led me to slowly detach became a creative outlet for me. And I believe that's pretty much okay. When you're in the midst of something and you're biting over more than you can chew, it might feel incredibly paralyzing. And by taking small steps on your way out of the relationship when you know that's what you need to do, I think that's also okay to be in line with what you're capable of at the time. Because when you are trying to create a reality in your life that is so far away from what your current reality is, then chances are it's going to be incredibly hard to stand in that situation. Sometimes life happens and it is completely out of our control. And I think if someone's been in that situation when the ground is completely disappearing from under your feet, it's very hard to stay put in those situations. But if you have situations in your life that you can actually be in control over, such as your health, such as the way that you show up in your life, for yourself, for others, it starts with discipline. And it also has a huge component of loving yourself. Remember I talked about the ripple effects of loving yourself? This is a major one because you find yourself wanting to take care of yourself. You find yourself wanting to take care of other people too when you love yourself because you have so much more loving bandwidth. And when it comes to reaching goals, when you constantly teach yourself that you are far more capable of doing things than you initially thought, you really, really will go places. I know that I'm repeating myself, but that is also the beauty of reaching goals. You're going to have to repeat yourself time and time again because starting a new habit is not as easy as it sounds. But if you start small enough and you stay consistent and you stay true to yourself first and foremost, chances are you will get to where you want to. So stay curious and get to know yourself better. If you want to come share your version of how your attachment style manifested itself in your love life, please email me on magsmindset@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you.